all started with a single notification. Elon Musk had always been obsessed with numbers, production rates, revenue growth, efficiency percentages. Data was his lifeblood. But lately, something had been bothering him. No matter how many charts and reports he analyzed, there was a gap, something missing. It wasn't about profits or innovation. It was something deeper. So, late one evening, long after most of Tesla's executives had left the office, Elon sat alone in his dimly lit headquarters in Austin, Texas, scrolling through a newly installed employee welfare monitoring system. The system wasn't about spying. It was designed to flag unusual activity, things that might indicate a worker was struggling, but too afraid to ask for help. Most alerts were minor, requests for shift changes, occasional overtime inquiries. But then, something caught his eye. A simple request from a factory worker at Tesla's Gigafactory in Nevada. "Can I work extra hours in exchange for meals?" Elon frowned. The words hit him differently. Tesla paid well, and employees had access to standard benefits. Why would someone need to trade their time for food? He clicked on the name attached to the message. Isabella Reyes. A mid-level assembly worker, 28 years old, single, no recent raises, and according to the system she had been clocking in for back-to-back shifts for the past 3 months, often working from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., with barely any time off. Elon leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. Something wasn't right. Why would someone push themselves to the edge like this? Curious, he pulled up financial data on Isabella. What he saw made his stomach tighten. Despite her full-time salary, she was barely surviving. Her rent had dropped significantly, indicating a move to a cheaper neighborhood. Bank records showed frequent hospital payments, though there was no medical claim history under her name. Then he checked security footage from the factory floor. The screen showed a woman working tirelessly, her movements efficient but exhausted. Even when her shift ended, she lingered, sometimes staring at her hands, as if calculating whether she could afford to stop. Elon wasn't just concerned anymore, he was troubled. Something about this didn't add up. He called one of his most trusted assistants, David Klein, a senior HR specialist. "David, I need everything we have on an employee. Isabella Reyes." David hesitated. "Is something wrong?" "That's what I need to find out," Elon muttered. "And I want answers by morning." As he hung up, he couldn't shake a feeling he hadn't had in years. This wasn't just a statistic. This was a person. And whatever was happening in Isabella Reyes' life, it was serious. And he was going to find out why. The next morning, as the Nevada sun rose over the Tesla Gigafactory, Elon Musk was already at his desk, waiting. A man who thrived on efficiency, he had little patience for waiting. But today, something was different. David Klein, Tesla's senior HR specialist, walked into the office carrying a neatly organized folder. His expression was serious. "You asked about Isabella Reyes," David said, setting the folder down. "I pulled everything I could find." Elon flipped open the file and skimmed the pages with sharp focus. Performance reports, pay history, shift logs. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Then he reached the financial documents. His jaw tensed. Despite working overtime nearly every week for the past 3 months, Isabella's bank account was nearly empty. Rent payments had shrunk. She had clearly moved to a smaller, cheaper place. But the real red flag was something else. "Hospital transactions," Elon muttered, tapping the document. "She's making regular payments, but there's no insurance claim under her name." David nodded. "That's because the claim isn't for her." He pulled out another document and slid it across the desk. "It's for her mother." Elon's eyes scanned the paper. Angela Reyes, 54 years old, stage 4 cancer patient, receiving experimental treatment. Elon sat back in his chair, exhaling sharply. It all made sense now. Isabella wasn't just working herself to exhaustion for no reason. She was trying to keep her mother alive. David continued, "She's been paying out of pocket because insurance won't cover the experimental treatment, and with medical costs piling up, she's been choosing between food, rent, and hospital bills. That's why she requested extra shifts in exchange for meals. She's cutting costs anywhere she can." Elon frowned, tapping his fingers against the desk. A woman who helped build Tesla's future was sacrificing her own. He flipped to the next page. Security footage, stills. They showed Isabella on the factory floor, exhausted but focused. In some, she was rubbing her temples, trying to shake off fatigue. In others, she was eating alone in the break room, often just a granola bar or a small portion of food. Elon clenched his jaw. He had seen struggling employees before, but never this close to home. He leaned forward. "David, does anyone at Tesla know about this?" David shook his head. "She hasn't said a word. No complaints, no requests for help. Just keeps showing up, working double shifts, and leaving quietly." Elon stared at the report, then at the security images. Most CEOs would sign a check and move on. But Elon Musk wasn't most CEOs. He stood abruptly. "Cancel my meetings today." David blinked. "Sir, I'm going to Nevada," Elon said, grabbing his jacket. "And I want to meet Isabella Reyes." David hesitated. "Are you sure? She might not even want." "I don't care," Elon interrupted, his voice firm. "I need to see for myself. No cameras, no press, just me and the truth." As he walked out of the office, his mind was racing. This wasn't about policy anymore. This was personal. And he was about to change Isabella Reyes' life forever. The Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada was still alive with movement, even as the clock neared midnight. Rows of machinery hummed, and workers moved methodically, assembling the future of electric vehicles. But, amidst the hum of progress, one figure stood out. Isabella Reyes. Dressed in her standard Tesla work uniform, she moved with precision, though her shoulders sagged with exhaustion. She wiped sweat from her brow, her body running on autopilot as she double-checked a battery module. Her mind, however, was miles away. In a hospital room, where her mother lay, hooked up to machines she could barely afford. What Isabella didn't know was that Elon Musk was already in the building. No cameras, no press, just him. He had arrived an hour earlier, choosing to walk the factory floor alone. No VIP tour, no boardroom briefings, just raw observation. He wanted to see it for himself, to feel what his workers felt. And when he finally spotted Isabella, he knew he had made the right decision. She was moving slower than the others, her steps measured, but there was no room for error in her work. Even through exhaustion, she refused to make mistakes. For a moment, Elon just watched. This woman, this employee, was giving Tesla everything she had, and yet, the company hadn't given her enough in return. That realization hit harder than any financial report ever could. With a deep breath, he stepped forward. "Isabella Reyes?" She froze. The voice was unmistakable. Firm, familiar, the kind you only heard through speakers or on television. Slowly she turned, her breath catching in her throat. Elon Musk was standing right in front of her. She blinked, her brain struggling to process the sight of the most powerful man in the company standing on the factory floor at midnight, looking directly at her. "Sir," she stammered, quickly straightening her posture. I didn't know you were here." Elon gave a small nod, his expression unreadable. "I came to see the people who make this company what it is." His eyes scanned her tired face, the faint dark circles beneath her eyes. And I wanted to talk to you. Isabella's stomach tightened. Had she done something wrong? Was she about to be fired? She swallowed hard. Oh, of course, sir. What can I do for you? Elon's voice was calm but firm. I read your request. Her blood ran cold. Her request? The one she had sent weeks ago, asking for extra shifts in exchange for meals. She had never expected anyone to actually see it, let alone the CEO of Tesla. Isabella hesitated, heat rising to her cheeks. Sir, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. Elon held up a hand, stopping her. You're not in trouble, he said. I just want to understand. She blinked. Understand. Elon gestured toward a quiet area near the break room. Walk with me. Still trying to grasp what was happening, Isabella nodded slowly and followed. As they walked past the rows of high-tech machinery, Elon spoke. I've gone through your records. You've been working double shifts for months. Your bank statements show nearly all of your income is going to medical bills. Your rent payments dropped, which means you probably moved to a cheaper place, and you barely take any breaks. Isabella's chest tightened. She hadn't expected him to know this much. I can handle it, she finally said, her voice quieter now. Elon stopped walking and turned to face her. No, you can't. His words weren't harsh. They weren't condescending. They were just true. Isabella's throat tightened. I have to. Elon studied her carefully. Your mother. Her breath hitched. How bad is it? He asked. Isabella looked away. She had spent months bottling it all up, refusing to let herself break. But now, standing in front of the one person who had the power to change everything, it felt impossible to hold back. She has stage 4 cancer, Isabella admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The treatment she's getting, it's experimental. Insurance won't cover it, so I have to... She forced a weak smile, but her eyes glossed over. I have to, she repeated, because if I don't... The words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. For a long moment, Elon said nothing. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke. We're gonna fix this. Isabella frowned. Sir? Elon's voice was steady, final. You're not going to pay for this alone, he said. Tesla is going to cover the cost of your mother's treatment. Isabella's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, trying to find some sign that this was a joke, some cruel misunderstanding. But Elon Musk didn't joke about things like this. Her knees almost buckled. Sir, I can't accept that. Yes, you can. Tears welled up in her eyes, the first she had allowed herself to feel in months. Why? She whispered. Elon met her gaze. Because no one should have to choose between saving their family and surviving their job. A single tear slipped down Isabella's cheek. She quickly wiped it away, still unable to believe what was happening. Elon took a deep breath. And that's not all, he continued. This isn't just about you. If you're struggling like this, how many other employees are? Isabella swallowed hard, unable to answer. Elon nodded. Exactly. He pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. Then, looking back at Isabella, he said words that would change Tesla forever. Starting tomorrow, we're restructuring Tesla's employee benefits program. No one should be in the position you were in. Isabella covered her mouth with her hands, her entire world shifting in real time. She had expected this to be another long night of work. Instead, it became the night everything changed. Elon Musk didn't waste time. The moment he left the factory floor, he was already drafting an internal memo to Tesla's executive team. The message was simple. No employee should ever have to choose between survival and their family's well-being. This ends now. By the time he boarded his jet back to Austin, legal teams were already working through policy changes. Financial analysts were crunching numbers. HR executives were scrambling to prepare a full employee benefits restructuring proposal. Elon had made up his mind. This wasn't just about Isabella Reyes. She was the wake-up call. But how many others were quietly suffering under the weight of financial and medical burden? The next morning, the Tesla boardroom was tense. The company's top executives had been called in for an emergency meeting, most of them unaware of what had prompted such urgency. Elon sat at the head of the table, tapping his fingers against the armrest as the last of the board members filed in. "I assume you've all seen my memo," he started, his voice calm but leaving no room for debate. "So let's get straight to it." A few executives exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, the CFO, cleared his throat. "Elon, expanding healthcare coverage and financial assistance for employees, especially covering experimental treatments, would be an astronomical cost. We have to consider shareholder value." Elon leaned forward, his piercing gaze locking on to the man. "Shareholder value?" he scoffed. "You think Tesla's value comes from some numbers on a stock market board? You think it comes from analysts who've never set foot in our factories?" He gestured toward the screen behind him, where an image of Isabella Reyes, exhausted and overworked, was frozen mid-shift. "This is where the value comes from. The people who make Tesla what it is." Silence. One of the senior HR officers hesitated before speaking. "We would need a complete overhaul of our employee benefits system," she admitted. "It would take weeks, months even, to assess the impact." Elon nodded. "Then you'd better get started." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Tesla's HR teams worked around the clock to analyze where the most critical gaps were. Elon personally sat through meetings with medical providers, negotiating direct partnerships that would give employees access to cutting-edge healthcare without the bureaucracy of insurance middlemen. A new Tesla Employee Support Fund was established, ensuring that no worker would have to take on excessive overtime just to afford basic necessities. And through it all, Isabella Reyes continued working. She had tried to process the fact that Tesla, her company, her employer, had stepped in to cover her mother's medical expenses. But it was more than that. Elon Musk had listened. One evening, as she packed up to head home, her phone buzzed. It was an email from Tesla's HR department. She hesitated before opening it, expecting some routine company-wide update, but what she saw made her breath catch in her throat. "Effective immediately, you have been promoted to Senior Assembly Technician with an adjusted salary reflecting your tenure and performance. Additionally, you have been enrolled in Tesla's new Family Support Initiative, ensuring long-term assistance for employees facing medical hardships. Thank you for your dedication. Elon." Isabella stared at the screen, her hands trembling. This wasn't just a raise, it was recognition. For the first time in months, she let herself cry, not out of exhaustion, but out of relief. Meanwhile, Tesla's decision sent shockwaves through the corporate world. Other tech giants were forced to take a hard look at their own policies. Media outlets picked up the story, not as a publicity stunt, but as a moment of genuine change. A few weeks later, Elon Musk returned to the Gigafactory, this time for a company-wide town hall. Employees packed into the space, buzzing with anticipation. Isabella stood near the back, still trying to comprehend everything that had happened. Elon took the stage, looking out at the faces that made Tesla what it was. "I've built companies," he began, "that are meant to change the world. But what's the point of building the future if we're not taking care of the people who make it possible?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. "That changes now," Elon continued. "This isn't a one-time fix, it's a commitment. Tesla will not be a company that squeezes the life out of its employees. We will be a company that invests in them." Applause erupted. Isabella found herself clapping, a new sense of pride swelling in her chest. She wasn't just working a job anymore, she was part of something bigger. And it all started with a simple message about food. As the months passed, Tesla's employee benefits transformation became more than just an internal shift. It became a movement. Other companies in the tech and manufacturing industries took notice, some out of admiration, others out of pressure. If Tesla could prioritize its workers without sacrificing innovation, what excuse did they have? For Isabella Reyes, life had changed in ways she never expected. Her promotion to senior assembly technician came with higher pay, better hours, and a new sense of purpose. More importantly, her mother's treatment, once an unbearable financial weight, was now fully covered. Angela Reyes had more good days than bad ones now, and while the future was uncertain, they no longer lived in fear of losing everything. One evening, as Isabella walked through the gigafactory, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: pride. Not just in her work, but in the company she was part of. She wasn't alone. Employees who had once struggled in silence now had a voice. The Tesla Employee Support Fund provided emergency financial assistance to those facing hardship. Mental health resources were expanded. The mandatory overtime culture was dismantled, replaced with flexible scheduling that prioritized both efficiency and well-being. And it wasn't just words. It was real. A few months after the changes took effect, Elon Musk returned to the gigafactory, this time without the element of surprise. A company-wide town hall was held, with thousands of Tesla employees gathering in person and virtually to hear what he had to say. Elon stood in front of them, microphone in hand, but this time his usual confidence carried something else: conviction. "I didn't come here today to talk about profits," he began, his voice echoing through the massive facility. "I came here to talk about people, about you." The factory was silent, every worker listening intently. "When I first started Tesla, I wanted to build something that would change the world, and we did. But what I realized, what Isabella made me realize, is that changing the world means nothing if we don't take care of the people who make that change possible." Isabella felt a lump rise in her throat. He had said her name. Elon continued, pacing slightly as he spoke. "The best innovation doesn't come from pushing people to their limits until they break. It comes from empowering them, from making sure they're seen, valued, and supported. That's why Tesla will never again be a company where employees have to choose between their jobs and their lives." A ripple of applause spread through the crowd, growing louder by the second. Some workers wiped their eyes. Others exchanged nods of agreement. They weren't just employees anymore. They were part of something bigger. Elon waited for the applause to settle before speaking again. "And this isn't the end. It's just the beginning," he said. "Because if we can set the standard for innovation, we can set the standard for how companies treat their people. And I promise you, we're going to keep getting better." The room erupted. For Isabella, the moment felt surreal. She had started this journey exhausted, overworked, and invisible. Now, she was part of a movement. After the town hall, she was pulled aside by Tesla's HR director, who handed her a formal letter. She opened it, her eyes scanning the words. "Tesla is establishing an employee advocacy committee, ensuring direct worker representation at the executive level. We would like you to be part of it." Isabella's breath hitched. Elon Musk himself approached, watching her reaction. "You up for it?" he asked. She looked up at him, still stunned. "You want me, someone who started on the factory floor, to help shape company policy?" Elon smirked. "Who better?" She let out a shaky laugh, nodding. "I'm in." And just like that, the girl who once had to beg for extra shifts to afford food was now helping shape the future of one of the biggest companies in the world. Tesla's transformation didn't just end with its employees. The company's revolutionary benefit system put pressure on competitors, forcing other tech giants to reevaluate their own labor policies. Government officials cited Tesla as an example in discussions about fair labor laws, and workers across industries demanded more from their employers. It all started with one message. A single request for extra shifts in exchange for food had set off a chain reaction that changed thousands of lives. Elon Musk had spent his career chasing the future, rockets, electric cars, AI. But in the end, his greatest innovation wasn't a machine. It was a culture of care. And as Isabella looked around at the factory floor, now filled with workers who felt valued and protected, she realized this wasn't just about Tesla anymore. This was about setting a new standard for the world. At its core, this story isn't just about Tesla, Isabella Reyes, or even Elon Musk. It's about something much bigger. The power of empathy, leadership, and taking action when it truly matters. While the characters in this story are fictional, the struggles they represent are very real. Too often, employees give everything they have to their jobs, only to be overlooked, underappreciated, and left to deal with life's hardships alone. But this story reminds us that a single act of awareness, a moment of listening, can change lives. Elon Musk could have ignored that request for extra shifts. He could have continued focusing on numbers and innovation, assuming everything was fine. But real leadership isn't just about building technology, it's about building people. The true mark of progress isn't just rockets, electric cars, or AI. It's how we take care of those who make these innovations possible. This story challenges all of us to think, are we paying attention to those around us? Are we willing to make a difference when we see someone struggling? Are we creating environments where people feel valued, heard, and supported? Because in the end, one message changed everything. What if your small act of kindness, your willingness to listen, could do the same? Thank you for watching and being part of this conversation. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest content. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you find today's topic intriguing, comment 1 below. If it doesn't resonate with you, comment 0. Your feedback helps us create better videos that match your interests. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.